Hey guys, it's Jessica Poole, Senior Associate Athletic Director for External Operations and Revenue Generation at Chicago State and COSIDA's second Vice President. So I'm going to share a little bit about Through My Lens, and I'm going to read a kind of a letter that I wrote to myself, kind of just some mumblings that I wrote down, but I hope you enjoy it. My story begins in my hometown of Ann Arbor, Michigan, home of the Michigan Wolverines. It was a place, my place, and it's where my love of athletics began. Thanks to my dad and my uncles Charles and Bubba on my mom's side and my Uncle Billy on my dad's side, I learned everything I could about sports and loved it. I tested out a bunch of sports growing up, including swimming, soccer, synchronized swimming, and water polo. I bet most of you didn't know that I did those sports. But I was never a star athlete, but I was competitive, and still am, and sports were my way to lead, which they still are. When it came time for college, I traded a Michigan Block M for a Missouri Block M. Go Tigers. And while serving as a practice player for a couple of teams, found myself loving just being in the athletic department and eventually found my way to the communications office. I was a journalism major and knew I wanted to write, but truly thought that I was learning how to write for law school until I met Chad Moeller and the Missouri communications crew of Tom Lewis, Whitney Vernew, Emily Gatewood, Sam Fleury, and Josh Murray. This crew welcomed me and gave me so many experiences that I knew this was something I wanted to pursue. I can recall working numerous credential tables, helping as the football press box copy queen, working on men's basketball game notes, and just covering and loving the adrenaline of what I was doing. The Mizzou crew must have seen something in me because before I knew it, I was hopping on the road with softball as to serve as their contact during the first part of the season, and serving as a primary women's tennis contact. Experiences that were instrumental in my career and my development of the love of the communications field. By senior year, I knew the LSATs in law school were going to be put on hold. Sorry, Mom and Dad. Because I knew I wanted to work in the college athletics world. I embarked on finding internships and landed at the University of Denver. Again, gaining so much experience, much of which I carry with me today, thanks to Eric Bacher and crew. I learned how to be a small fish in a big pond and get coverage. I learned how to work with coaches. Many of the tips and tricks that I learned from that internship I use today. But flash forward to my first, quote unquote, big break. I had been working at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, and was learning and growing so much when an opportunity at Michigan presented itself. An opportunity in my town, at my place, at my school that I loved. For some reason, I couldn't shake it, and it was a chance to go home and work for the school that I grew up cheering for. For me, it was kind of a no-brainer, and was one of the best decisions I ever made. Michigan taught me many big capital letters and many lessons, but the biggest was how to fail forward. It was only fitting that my biggest leadership lesson came in my backyard. Working at Michigan in my very young mind meant that I had made it, but it also came with so many expectations. Some put on me by the institution and the power and the prestige of the Block M, which I grew up knowing about and loving. Some, and probably more than I care to mention, I placed on myself. During my time at Michigan, I wanted to be perfect. And I was very well aware that there weren't many people of color, especially women of color, in the communications field. And for me, that was added pressure. I didn't want to mess up for the people coming behind me, for the people that came before me. It was just a lot of pressure, and I felt like I needed to be perfect to succeed. Ultimately, the pressure took over, and I couldn't maintain, which led me to leave Michigan and landed me in Hanover, New Hampshire, at Dartmouth College. So some of you are probably wondering, Michigan to Dartmouth? Seriously? But like I said, Michigan taught me to fail forward, and Dartmouth provided me the place to see my growth, the things I struggled with at Michigan as a younger professional. I was much better equipped to handle. I learned the importance of community, self-care, and self-assessment. All concepts I learned through my failures at Michigan. And when I say failures, I mean lessons. They're not really failures. My story is taking me from an intern to a senior associate AD of external operations and revenue generation and a senior woman administrator title, all built on the idea of failing forward. The beauty of my journey is that it's not over, and it's taught me how to handle adversity. In fact, I think I was made for tough situations because of my experience back in my time at Michigan. It's all about how you shift your perspective. Every day won't be perfect, but that doesn't mean you have a horrible life. Every job won't be what you expect, but you can always take something from each experience and apply it to your next opportunity. And that is the beauty of failing forward. You never really fail, you just move forward. So I'll end with this small piece of advice. Use every single circumstance and situation to move forward. All of the experiences we have are meant to shape us, not to break us. And if we take that stance, we can never fail. So thanks for listening to my story. I hope you enjoyed it. And go blue.